Hey guys, Hella Bella here, and I'm going to be doing a no buy or low buy year for 2023. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why I'm decided to do this, some of my negative habits when it comes to shopping, and what I hope to gain from this challenge, and of course the rules that I set out for myself, because I think that everyone has to go about this a little differently. We all have different needs and different, I guess, ways that we like to live and things that we prioritize. And so for me, I want this to be more about like exposing my current purchasing habits and wasteful spending rather than trying to tell myself that I can't do something. So just to give you a little bit of background, I am self-employed, I work from home, and I have, I've really not been super mindful about my spending, but I've always been like a frugal and cheap person. So that's going to play into, I guess, my years. This year around the holidays, I started to feel like pretty overwhelmed by the gift giving and the clutter and the performative nature of Christmas. And I don't know, like this year more than, in the past few years, I felt a lot of pressure to give good enough gifts and to basically just kind of, show off, aspects of what I had or things that I was buying. And so I really did not like the way that that made me feel, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing this challenge. I started thinking about like, what do I want to work on in 2023, because I'm a person who always sets goals for myself usually at the beginning of the year, but I'll make quarterly and monthly goals as well. And this year I just didn't have anything that was really standing out, and I kept coming across these low buy, no buy videos, and I guess I sort of like drank the Kool-Aid and thought, wow, that would be a really good thing for me to do, especially when it comes to I'm wanting to save for a bigger house. I want to move to the beach, and so this could be a good way for me to kind of see like, what is my baseline of spending when I'm not spending on stuff that I don't need. So one of my motivations is definitely to save money, but I also want to kind of save time as well. For me, shopping is something that I have always enjoyed, and I've done it to relax. And, it's something that I'll do with my mom when she comes into town, and me and my mom and grandmother will go shopping together. It's just sort of an activity that we have found ourselves doing, and it feels comfortable, feels like almost like a pastime for us, and it also can be a coping skill that I lean on, especially when I'm stressed or when I just want that like rush of dopamine, I guess. So that's another reason that I'm sort of wanting to start this low buy, no buy year. I did check my bank account, and it said that I had 49 different transactions labeled shopping. So this was for 2022. So I'm looking at about one purchase per week if we average it out over the year. I spent $1,108, so around $100 a month that I'm currently spending on shopping. So I don't think, if I just completely stop shopping, is $1,200 a year really going to change my life that much? Probably not, but I think what I'm trying to, I guess, be more mindful of is, why did I feel the need to make a purchase every single week, and where was I going, what was I doing, what were the patterns, how was my time spent? Because I think that one of the things that you don't think about when it comes to shopping is that decision fatigue that comes into play when you're like, is this one better or is that one better? Let me read the reviews on it. Let me look at pictures of other people who have bought it. Let me look up videos on this. And so, when you get into that like analysis paralysis stage of shopping, when you're trying to pick out something, it really is extremely time consuming. So that's something that I am going to be trying to avoid. So for me, it looks like my most common purchases were shoes. I probably bought like 8 pairs of shoes this year. I mean, that's a lot of shoes. Shoes, clothes, perfume, candles, and mostly random stuff from like TJ Maxx and Ross and Tuesday Morning. I feel like that's one of my process addictions of like, it feels calming to me to go and walk around a store and like pick up things and touch things. And that's something that I've always sort of done to kind of, I guess, ease my stress, or if I'm having a particularly difficult week, it's fun to go in TJ Maxx and look at everything. But I think that we can all, agree that there's really nothing in there that you really need. It's all stuff that people just want, and it's consumer spending at its finest, right? And I'm not trying to demonize like spending money or having things, because I definitely like the things that I have. I like to have nice things, but at the end of the day, you really have to think about like, is this stuff worth all the effort and the time that it's taking in order to accumulate it? So we're going to talk about my 3 bad habits when it comes to spending. So the first thing that I noticed that I do is I like to stock up on products. So basically things that are really cheap, and I feel like, you know, if I can buy this now, I won't have to buy it later, or I won't have to add this to the grocery bill. Some of the things that I've stocked up on and have a stockpile of, which I'll show you, is soap, moisturizers, deodorant, tampons. I think I have enough tampons to last until like menopause. Honestly, I have so many because I go to this discount store and they'll be like $1 or $2 for the box, and so I just grab them because if you try to buy tampons now in town, they're like $7 or $8 a box. So I'm like, oh, I'm getting them, you know, at a 75% off discount. But the problem with that is that I need to know when enough is enough, because I have, you know, run out of storage space for some of these things. I live in a 1,700 square foot house, and me and my partner both have home offices here. So we both have to work out of here. So I don't have room to stock up every single, you know, area of my house. But with that being said, I don't think stockpiling is particularly the issue that I think is negative. It's more or less that feeling like you don't have enough, or feeling like if you accumulate things that you're somehow going to be safer. And I think it might be tied to just, you know, childhood trauma and issues with safety and having enough and not wanting to run out of things. Like I always say, I hate running out of toilet paper or paper towels or things like that, or milk. Those are things that I just cannot stand to run out of. But I need to be okay with like using the last of a moisturizer and being okay, you know, with a lapse of, a couple of days before I can get another one. So one of the things I'm going to have to do this year is probably stop myself when I see something that I deem as a good deal on something to stock up on, because that seems to be a get out of jail free card for spending for me, especially if I can justify something like garbage bags or laundry pods or Ziploc bags, and you know, a lot of these things that probably wouldn't use as much if we didn't have as much, but since we have so many, we're like more wasteful with it, if that makes any sense. So that's my first negative habit. The other bad habit that I have is buying clothes at the thrift store. And what happens is I go and I'll get like $40 worth of stuff. I'll get like a haul, and I'll wear a couple of things. I won't try it on at the store because I'm like, I'm not trying to get naked in the thrift store. That's just not, it's not for me. So I won't try it on. So I won't like half of it. Half of it will go back into like a donation pile. And then, you know, the things that I do buy, it seems like I'm not really thinking it through of how is this going to fit into my existing style and wardrobe, because I've picked out some pieces this year that were really nice, but they just didn't fit like my personal style. So for this jacket that I'm wearing, this is like a jacket that I got for $5.99, and I know that it fits me well and it fits like my personal style because I've worn it again and again, and it's been something that I've been excited to put on, and I felt like, oh, this was a good purchase. But the problem with the thrift shopping is I only feel that way about 20% of the stuff that I'm actually buying. So I think I'm gonna have to come to terms with just saying enough is enough with my wardrobe this year and just stop buying clothes at the thrift store so much. I'm going to go over my rules for that, but that's going to be one of the more challenging things. And one thing that I think, you know, I also justify it because I'm like, okay, well, I'm saving the environment because I'm buying used stuff and I'm taking it away from a landfill. But ultimately, all that's happening is it's going to the landfill in my closet, and I have this rotating door of clothes that keep coming in and out. So I'm really going to try to work on that. I don't buy a lot of like knickknacks or junk from the thrift store. I notice besides clothes, I'll buy maybe a book to read or something that I think might be useful around the house. But for the most part, those are not the items that are problematic. Those are usually the items that I wind up keeping and using. So clothes at the thrift store. Now, clothes regularly for me, not something I spend a lot of money on. I have 2 pairs of pants, and I like it that way. I like the fact that I don't have to scramble and say which one goes with this, which one goes with that. I know I'm either wearing number 1 or number 2. Like, I can't overthink the decision, I guess. And this gray shirt that I have is like a staple in my wardrobe because, you know, it just goes with everything. I can pair it with anything that I want. And so I really am trying to, I guess, be more minimalist in that aspect with clothes as well. The third bad habit that I have around the spending is going shopping to make myself feel better, or when I'm bored, or when I just don't know what to do with my free time. And that last one is concerning because what happens is I get a couple hours after I'm finished with work and after, I've done what I need to do for the day, and I'm like, okay, well, let me just go see what's out there. Let me like reward myself. And maybe there's some kind of deep-seated like hunter-gatherer scavenger thing that lives within all of us that feels like we need to go out and like find these things. But to me, it seems like what I'm doing is using a lot of my free time to go out and just shop for things that I don't need. And I really don't know how much time that I've actually spent thrifting in 2022, but I know it's a lot because I have a thrift store that's like 3 minutes from my house. And every time I go in there, I usually don't come up empty-handed. So it's going to be a real, I guess, transition for me to figure out how to navigate this going into the no-buy year. But those are, some of the habits that I feel like are negative. Like I said, stockpiling, buying clothes at the thrift store and then not liking them, and then going shopping in order to kind of make myself feel better. So those are the things that I'm sort of feeling negative about going into this. So obviously, I think people come to the conclusion that they need to do a no-buy year for a lot of different reasons. Some people are in debt, some people have shopping addictions, some people just don't want to use that mental energy anymore to buy things. And so I feel like when I was trying to come up with like, what is my why, I came up with 3 things that made the most sense to me. The first one was space and appreciation. So reclaiming my space and being able to not have to sift through things in order to find what I'm looking for. I want to be able to like accumulate less stuff throughout the year. I know that I do like spring cleaning every year and I get rid of so much stuff. So if I don't start accumulating it, then I won't have to get rid of it. So I want to be able to appreciate what I have. That's one thing that I feel like we all don't do enough of. I personally was doing like a gratitude list at one point, but I just kind of let it fall off. And I'd really maybe like to make that part of this challenge of like, what is something that I already had that I used this week that I really enjoyed using? And maybe just kind of look at it through a lens of gratitude, because I mean, if you are, middle or lower class in America and you're paying your bills and you're not struggling and you're not worrying about your next meal or how you're going to pay, your light bill, you're really in a better position than most people in the world. So trying to gain some appreciation, some gratitude, maybe need to work on that. The next thing that I want to get out of this challenge is to have more of my time back, to avoid wasting time making decisions on what to buy, what not to buy, and all of that time that I spend walking down the aisle in these stores. Because I don't know about you guys, but like when I go to a store, I'll be in there at least an hour. So if I only go, twice a week to the store, that's over 100 hours a year that I could have been doing something more productive, could have been in, just relaxing or enjoying myself or having coffee with a friend, all those things that probably would be more meaningful to me. So I'm wanting to get back time that I'm spending on shopping. And for me, the time a lot of times is just pilfering around like thrift store. It's me and like all these old ladies, because when you don't work during the daytime, you see all the people who are out doing old people stuff. And I love the old people, but you will see an old woman like fill up the cart at the thrift store and it's all knickknacks. Like it's all just shit, honestly. So I mean, not to be rude, but like, I just feel like I don't want to get to that level. I don't want to feel like, instead of having meaning in my life, I'm just trying to fill it with stuff. So that's another thing. The last why, I guess, is to try and create a mindset of I have enough and not living in scarcity and not being a hoarder, and having a habit of like, okay, you've got what you need. You don't need to add to this. Like what you have is enough and you need to come to terms with that. And so one of the things I noted was that I don't want to raise children to value things. I want them to have experiences and not a shelf full of knickknacks and expired beauty products that they are saving. My grandmother loves to get gifts and then save it for like 3 years. And I'm like, by the time you use it, it's not any good anymore. And I know that's like maybe it's a scarcity thing with people who grew up having a lot less. But now that we're in this, super consumer culture, it's really unlikely that we're not going to be able to replace whatever we have. So one of the habits is to just say, I have enough. That's point blank, like period. I have enough. I'm safe. I'm secure. It's not going to make my life better for me to buy this at this time. And maybe even kind of figuring out like when I am making those purchase decisions, what goes into it. The next part I want to discuss with you guys is what are the rules, because every challenge must have rules. Everyone has different things that they want to focus on. I don't want to obsess over the rules, but I want to be able to kind of look back on this and say, did I follow it or did I not follow it? I want it to sort of maybe expose my decision-making process for like things that I feel like are worthy or not worthy, if that makes any sense. So I have only like 4, I guess, rules or components to this challenge. The first one is that I will not put any spending cap on food, restaurants, experiences, travel, period. So right now I am responsibly enjoying all of these things. These things don't cause me any financial stress or issues. And I don't see a need to limit and say, I'm only going to go out to eat X amount of times, or I'm going to only see a concert once a year. Like, that's just not the reason that I'm trying to be financially secure. I am pursuing, early retirement, FIRE, whatever you want to call it. I've already paid off my house. I don't have debt. So in order for me to like enjoy my life, I don't want to cut out those things. This challenge to me is more about what am I buying and what am I spending my time and energy on that don't make sense. So the second rule is about the thrifting and the buying clothes. And this is going to be the hardest one for me to navigate. I think what I might do, and this could evolve over the course of the year, but I think what would be reasonable for me is, instead of saying I'm not going to go thrift shopping and I'm not going to buy clothes all year, I say that once per quarter I will go on a thrifting trip. And whatever I buy that day, I get that day, and I don't buy anything else the other 89 of the 90 days. So if we go once a quarter, that'll be 4 trips throughout 2023 that I am buying clothes. So I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm also going to allow myself to replace clothing as needed. What I mean by that is like clothes that don't fit anymore, or things that are like staples in my wardrobe. Right now, I told you guys I have 2 pairs of pants. I have been losing weight the last couple of months. I've lost a couple pounds. I'm about ready to go down a size. So that will be something that I allow myself to do, and I'm not going to worry about that. So if I need to replace something like that, I can. One thing that I know I also buy a lot of is like athleisure, and I really don't need any more of that. So I'm going to have to say, no to myself on that this year. I think when I think about what's going to cause me the most resistance this year, it's going to be like wanting to do that looking and wanting to sift through the racks at the thrift store. But I think that is the thing that takes up the most time when it comes to mindless shopping for me. So once a quarter is what I'm going to start with. When will that quarter start? I don't know. Should it start in January? Or I guess, I can allow myself to do it whenever I feel is necessary. But for me, I think that this is a good element to the challenge, because it is difficult, but it isn't saying, okay, I'm not going to do it at all, because I don't do well with the all or nothing mindset. I never have. I don't like feeling limited. So we're just going to try to do quarterly when it comes to that. Okay, so then the third rule is regarding skincare, makeup, consumable products like perfume, candles, soap. So I have a bad habit of going to TJ Maxx for this stuff, and they have those little stupid little red stickers at TJ Maxx that have things that are on sale, and I'll be like, oh, it's a great deal. Like, I never let myself buy this product when I go to like Walmart because it's too high, and now it's on sale. No, I'm not doing that. I cannot accumulate anything else in these categories. My rule for this kind of stuff is going to be finish one, buy one. So you cannot get anything else until you have fully consumed whatever it is that you're using. So if you have a candle, you wait until the candle is empty to get another candle. I mean, that's something that's simple, I guess, but hard to follow through on, because, you go to all these places and you're like, oh, they have this stuff at the checkout. Like, it's really just, I don't know, it's sort of like it's inconsequential in terms of your budget, right? Like, it's $8 to $12 or something like that. So you don't really have to think about it, but that's sort of the problem, is that you're not thinking about it and then you're accumulating it. So buy one only once I have finished one, and that's going to be tough for me as well. I am doing pretty good with my makeup. I will say I used to spend about $500 a year on makeup, And now I would say I probably don't spend even $100 a year on makeup. I recently bought a new eyeshadow palette, and y'all probably can't even tell, but I bought a new eyeshadow palette. It was on sale, for the holidays. It was like Urban Decay, and it was $22, and I will probably just use that all year. I don't like to have like 4 or 5 different palettes, because it's just like another one of those things where you just have to make more decisions the more stuff that you allow into your life. So, I mean, that's a pretty good example of saying like, okay, I'm not gonna buy all this stuff, because then I won't have to make all of those decisions. I think another thing that has helped me cut down like my spending on makeup is just sort of, I don't know, maybe getting older and realizing that like drugstore brands are pretty much as good as the $40 or $50 brand. They're not quite there, but it's good enough. It's not like I'm, going to the red carpet. It's not like it makes much of a difference in the way that I look every day. And I know that, at the end of the day, like, I'm comfortable with who I am. And so a lot of these products that we're spending this money on, they're geared to make us feel bad about ourselves. And so kind of like not listening to that is going to be another challenge, because, I've constantly like, oh, maybe I need to start getting preventative Botox when I'm 28, or maybe I need to have like chin lipo, or, things like that, that just, I guess I probably wouldn't even think about it, except for the fact that I see it on like social media and we see it being promoted by people. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is just sort of maybe just kind of be okay with not comparing myself to people, because most of the things that we kind of like decide that we want, we had to get that influence from somewhere, right? We don't just like think of things in our head to buy. Like usually you see it on TV, you might see like your friend have it, and then you're like, oh, I like that. I like the way that looks on her. I want to get that for myself. So, maybe trying to be a little bit more aware of that this year will really benefit me in the long run. Okay, so the fourth rule, or I called it exceptions, because every good challenge must have exceptions. So the exceptions on this are going to be gifts, or using store credit, or at the consignment store, I have an arrangement where I drop off about 100 pieces of clothing once per quarter, and the consignment store takes everything, and then they just pay me 40% of whatever sells. So I am going to say I can use my consignment store credit at any time to buy something. So what that will do is it will kind of give me a little bit of a structure to saying like, okay, you can buy stuff here if you have the credit, but if you don't have the credit, you really don't need to be accumulating anything else. Because I mean, to be honest, I'll probably get about $100 every 6 months from them. It's not like a crazy amount. It might be a little bit more than that, just depends on what I send them, but their stuff is really cheap. They'll have shirts for like $7.99, $11.99. They'll have like boots and stuff for like $20, like definitely discounted from what you would normally buy. But one of the things I'm gonna have to, once again, is police myself, is that just because something is on sale does not mean that it is a good deal. And that's a big part of my no buy year, is just realizing like, yes, Bella, you do have the money for it, girl. You can buy it, but do you need it? Like, that is my biggest thing right now, is like, I have given myself a little bit too much leeway when it comes to buying all this crap. And I'm sort of like, when you have a pendulum that's swinging, I'm sort of over here and I need to just swing back into the middle, because, I don't want to do no buy for the rest of my life. Like, I just don't think that's feasible. But I do think, over the course of a year, if you pick something and you really focus on it, you are going to expose so much about your purchasing patterns and your thoughts and your beliefs around money and consumption. And it's really important for me to think about that, especially as we possibly might be moving into a bigger house, because what happens when you get a bigger house? You get more stuff. That's just how it usually goes. You got to get more furniture. You got to get more artwork. You got to get more people in it. Like it's sort of like we just keep scaling up. And so we kind of have to decide like what is enough for me. And so with these 4 rules, I feel like that's a pretty good baseline. Like I said, I may tweak it a little bit. The last thing I want to touch on is, how will I know if this was successful? And that's definitely going to be something that I can't really foresee right now, but I'm thinking, if at the end of the year I don't feel that urge to like compulsive shop, and I don't feel that urge to stockpile, or maybe I'd still feel it, but maybe it's a little less loud in my head, I'll feel like it was a success. So what I'm gonna do, I guess, to stay accountable with you guys is to do quarterly updates on my channel. I'm gonna keep a running list of all the things that I do buy that fall into those categories, and maybe we'll kind of touch base on like how it made me feel, whether or not I thought it was a good idea, especially, you know, if a month has passed, do I regret the decision? And this is not meant to make me feel bad about spending money. It's really not that at all. It's about kind of like seeing your money as a resource, and like, do you want to spend this resource that you have on something that only has one purpose? So that's basically what stuff is. You know, it's just a, you know, stationary object that you may or may not be able to get something out of, and you may or may not decide later on, well, I didn't really like that, but now I'm kind of stuck with it. So for me, the no buy year ultimately is about saving myself time and energy when it comes to what I'm possessing. Like, what do I have? Like, I'm looking around my house, and you know, there's a lot of things that I use every day. There's some things I use only, you know, once a week. There's some stuff I use every month. You know, it's like I don't use it a ton, but I don't want to get rid of it. So I guess kind of being mindful about those types of things, and like going forward, do I buy something that I'm only going to use during the holidays? Do I buy decor that's seasonal? You know, that's one thing that I really don't like, that having to put a bunch of stuff in storage. It's the dumbest thing that people do. Like, just spending money to put things in a storage unit literally makes no sense to me. I've never understood that. I'm like, why don't you just get rid of it and then get new stuff later? But people have an attachment to their things, and you know, I've definitely learned that in my career. Like, as a reseller, people, you know, have these like beliefs about their stuff, and I do too. Like, nobody's like immune to it. But I guess like during this challenge, I'm really going to be asking myself, like, what is it about this that makes you want it? Like, be real, like, be honest with yourself. Like, is this an ego thing? Do you think this is going to make your life better? Do you think it's going to make you feel better in the moment? Do you think having it is somehow going to change you? And so I guess maybe just sort of asking myself those questions as I embark on the low buy or no buy year. I guess I'll call it a low buy year, because I don't think no buy is really feasible for anyone unless you're just living like a rough, really tough, you know, disciplined lifestyle. Like, I just don't think it's feasible. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed it. There are a lot of other people doing this, so maybe, you know, we can build up some aspect of community. I would love to kind of hear if you plan on doing this. What are the rules that you are setting forth? What do you hope to get out of it? And is there something that you just keep buying that you don't know why you do, but you just have accumulated it, whether it's, you know, perfume or purses or you know, antiques or whatever it is that you seem to be accumulating? I would love to hear about that in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for listening to all of my rambling. I will come to you with an update after we have finished the first quarter of the year for the low buy year. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I will catch you later.